Okay, let's be real for a second. Are you actually ready for the massive tax rule changes hitting in 2026? Welcome to this explainer on mastering the 1099 NEC. Look, whether you're a small business hiring a freelance graphic designer or a massive company relying on a whole network of contractors, getting this paperwork exactly right is absolutely critical for your survival. To put this into perspective and understand why the IRS is paying so much attention to this, just think about the gig economy right now. We are talking about over 70 million Americans working as independent contractors, freelancers, and sole proprietors. That is a massive chunk of the workforce moving trillions of dollars around. But here's the catch. The IRS is fundamentally changing the thresholds and the systems for reporting all that income starting in the 2026 tax year. So the really critical question is, are you actually prepared? Because this isn't just about plugging a few numbers into a form anymore. It's about navigating a brand new legislative landscape and entirely new digital platforms. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. Number 1, an introduction to the 1099 NEC. 2, eligibility and new thresholds. 3, the step-by-step filing process. 4, platforms, methods, and IRS. 5, deadlines and IRS penalties. And finally, number 6, FAQs and best practices. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Introduction to the 1099 NEC. So what is it? Form 1099 NEC officially records non-employee compensation. Basically, it separates contractors' service fees from other random types of income. For years, businesses just threw everything onto the 1099 MISC form. But back in 2020, the IRS split them up to fix some major processing headaches. So now, payments for services go on the NEC, while things like rents, royalties, or medical payments still belong over on the 1099 MISC. Now, this is absolutely crucial to understand, the legal difference between employees and contractors, which boils down to behavioral and financial control. Employees get a W-2. Why? Because you control their hours and you provide their tools, right? But autonomous contractors? They set their own schedules, they receive a 1099 NEC, and they pay their own self-employment tax. Let me warn you, if you classify an employee as a contractor just to save on payroll taxes, you're looking at some severe classification errors and massive penalties. Moving right along to Section 2, eligibility and new thresholds. Okay, this is the biggest update by far, the new threshold. For literally years, the magic number was $600. But starting with payments made on or after January 1st, 2026, you only need to file a 1099 NEC if a contractor earns $2,000 or more in a single calendar year. This is a huge shift designed to reduce the sheer mountain of forms generated for low-level service providers. And moving forward into 2027, that number will actually be indexed annually for inflation. Breaking it down, the crucial takeaway is that you absolutely must file if you meet these 4 specific conditions. 1, you paid someone who isn't your employee. 2, the payment was for business services, so paying a guy to fix your personal plumbing at home doesn't count. 3, you paid an eligible entity, like an individual or a partnership. Remember, payments to most C and S corporations are exempt unless it's for very specific things like legal fees to a law firm. And 4, those payments hit that new $2,000 threshold. Let's get into the nitty-gritty in Section 3, step-by-step filing process. Step 1 is a totally non-negotiable rule of thumb. Always collect a W-9 before making your very first payment to a contractor. This piece of paper gives you their legal name and their taxpayer identification number, or TIN. If you pay them and they refuse to give you their TIN, you are legally required to start withholding 24% of their pay and sending it straight to the IRS. It's called backup withholding, and you don't want to deal with it, so get that W-9 up front. Step 2 is tracking your payments throughout the year, but keep in mind you exclude credit card payments because the payment processors handle those on a totally different form. And Step 3 is just accurately filling out the 1099 NEC itself. When you're actually staring at the form, it's pretty straightforward. You'll drop that $2,000 or more in service fees right into Box 1. Box 2 is this super specific checkbox used only if you made direct sales of consumer goods totaling $5,000 or more to a recipient for resale. And Box 4? That's strictly for reporting any federal tax you were forced to withhold under those backup withholding rules we literally just talked about. Let's pivot to Section 4, platforms, methods, and IRS. So, it is finally happening. The IRS is officially decommissioning their highly technical 1990s-era FIRE system at the exact end of 2026. FIRE required these incredibly complex ASCII files. Honestly, it felt like you needed a computer science degree just to upload a tax form. Now they are shifting everything to IRS, the Information Returns Intake System. This is a sleek, modern web portal. You can manually enter forms right on the screen or just upload a simple CSV spreadsheet. It even gives you real-time error validation before you hit submit, which is a real game changer. Now, you might be thinking, can I just stick a stamp on a paper form? Well, listen up, because if your business files 10 or more information returns in total, and yes, that means combining all your W-2s, 1099s, and 1098s into one big pile, paper filing is totally banned. Electronic filing is strictly mandatory. If you have 8 employees and 3 contractors, boom, you just cross that 10-form threshold, and you absolutely must use an electronic system like Iris or a third-party software provider. Let's talk timelines in Section 5. Deadlines and IRS penalties. Unlike some other tax forms like the 1099 MISC, where you can beg for an automatic 30-day extension, the 1099 NEC has a rock-solid, unextendable deadline of January 31st. No exceptions. By that day, you must submit copy A to the IRS, and you've got to get copy B to your independent contractors so they can file their own taxes. The IRS set it up this way specifically to crack down on tax fraud, ensuring they have contractor income data nice and early in the filing season. And if you miss that January deadline, get ready for cascading penalties. If you're just a few days late, it starts at $60 a form. Way too long, and it scales up to $330 per form. But if the IRS decides you intentionally disregarded the rules and just totally ignored your filing requirements, that penalty skyrockets to at least $660 per form. And the scariest part, there is absolutely no maximum cap on what they can fine you. Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 6, FAQs and best practices. First off, do not forget that you are also dealing with state governments. Not all state tax departments play by federal rules. Some states, like Arkansas or California, participate in the combined federal and state filing program, meaning the IRS shares your data with them automatically. So easy, right? But other states, like Delaware, make you upload your 1099s directly into their own separate state portals. And places like Texas, no separate filing required at all. Always double-check the rules for the specific state where your contractor works. To build an ironclad defense and protect your business from audit headaches, our #1 best practice is keeping meticulous records. Maintain copies of all signed W-9s, detailed invoices, and filed 1099 forms for at least 4 full years. If a contractor randomly disputes the amount you reported, or the IRS flags a TIN mismatch, having this documentation instantly accessible is exactly what saves you from those massive fines. Oh, and one more pro tip. If you're a super small business, meaning you safely fall under that 10-form threshold, and you actually choose to file by physical mail, you cannot just toss those 1099s into an envelope. They have to be bundled with Form 1096. This is a mandatory IRS cover sheet that summarizes the total number of forms you're sending and the total amount of money reported. If you forget the 1096, your paper filing will definitely not be processed correctly. As we close out, I need to share an essential best practice. While we've mapped out the basics in this explainer to give you a fantastic foundation, the tax code is a giant, complicated beast that is highly specific to individual industries. You should absolutely always consult a certified tax professional or CPA to navigate your unique business landscape safely, especially as we get closer to these 2026 rollouts. Which leaves us with one final provocative question for you to chew on. Take a hard look at the systems your business uses today. Is your back office genuinely prepared to track that new $2,000 threshold, properly classify your gig workers, and seamlessly embrace the transition to the Iris portal this tax season? The gig economy isn't slowing down anytime soon, and neither is the IRS. Get your systems ready right now so you aren't scrambling when January rolls around. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and happy filing.